All right, good morning. It's a good life, isn't it? It's a good life. Matter of fact, if you're not convinced it's a good life, hopefully before we leave today, I'll convince you, okay? Because it is a good life. God is incredibly good to us. I mean, think about this, guys. What if you actually got what you deserved? Just kind of scary. I forgot to mention this earlier, but our marriage getaway is coming up February 10th and 11th. And it's going to be in Morro Bay. Super nice place, the Inn at Morro Bay. You can actually call and get your reservations later on this week. Going to be a super good time. Here's the way this works, guys. This is amazing. Men, pay attention. Okay? Ladies, you can drift off for a second. Like you're going to do that now. But that place is a resort. The rooms are generally between $400 and $500 a night. And so we got a deal for $139 a night. Okay? And so here, this is what makes this really good for guys. You can do a romantic getaway weekend for like cheap. And so take the opportunity to make it happen February 10th and 11th. Right, guys? Okay? Because, listen, I'm really trying hard to make you look good. That's right. And I could use a little help here, you know. All right, so with that in mind, starting the new series, I am excited about this. And the holiday season is right on top of us. It's kind of like the zombie apocalypse. Here it is. There's nothing you can do about it. Just defend yourself, right? And so thinking about this a little bit, and all of us, we have lists of lists, and there's meals to prepare, and things to do, and stuff we got to buy, and we got to have family come by and be friendly to people that we don't even like, and there's a whole lot of stuff going on for the holidays, right? Okay. Now here's what you already know. With a million things to do, you already know that you're not going to be able to do everything on the list, right? But baby, it's on the list, right? And so the deal is, now, the closer we get to the holiday, the more stuff starts falling off the list. Isn't that true? Everybody know what I'm talking about? Okay. And it just falls off the list. So there's a concept that the heavier the load, the more fuel you burn. So here's just a bit of wisdom as we get started. If we don't make the choices on the front end, we have to make bad choices on the back end. So as we're really looking at this good life, I want us to look at things differently and make good choices now so that when we get to the holiday, we can enjoy the good life. Okay, you still with me? Okay, so to get this started, you guys, I'm sure that you'll relate to this. How many of you have ever gone shopping really hungry? You know what I'm talking about? You go to the store, it's like, man, I could eat almost anything, you know. Those are times when you're walking through the store, it's like, yeah, one of these, and one or two of these. Like, oh, yeah, give me some of those. And then when you get home, man, you got 10 things on your list, and you leave the store $149.95. You know, it's just, whoa. And you get all this stuff, you get home, and here's the funny part. It's still in your pantry. You bought it last year, right? Matter of fact, I asked this in the first service. What'd you see out of this one? Does anybody have any garbanzo beans in the pantry? Never? Never. Roger has garbanzo beans. Hey, Raj, how old are those garbanzo beans? About a month? Oh, okay, I'm not asking for a recipe. It was just a simple question. But you guys get it. I mean, there's stuff that you get. As a matter of fact, I thought about it. It's just kind of funny. You're hoping that the church will have like a canned food drive so you can get rid of this stuff. And, hey, give somebody else this stuff. And so, but basically, so when you go really, really hungry, you're desperate, and you want anything and everything. Now, the flip side of this, if you go to the store really full, nothing looks good, right? Yeah, I don't like this. And so now what happens is a few days later, you wish you'd give it some more thought because, man, now I got to go back. So as the definition for the good life, here's how I'm going with this. I think the good life is somewhere in between desperation, where you settle for anything and everything, and overindulgence, where you're not happy with anything. Somewhere in between is what we're going to call the good life. Okay? Because if you're overindulgent, you don't appreciate the good stuff or the stuff that's important. And if you're desperate, you don't even know you got the good stuff. And so that's where I'm kind of going to go with this idea. And so thinking about that just a little bit. John chapter 10 and verse 10, here's what Jesus said. He said, the thief comes to steal, kill, and destroy. The thief. Anybody ever been ripped off? Right? You know what I'm talking about? It's like, huh, seriously? Now, I don't know about you, and if you were the one ripping off, it's a different conversation. But you know, but if you've ever been ripped off, it feels like such a personal violation, doesn't it? You're like, really? You know, we've had windows knocked out in the parking lot, that kind of stuff, and oh my God, I can't believe it. So it is such a personal offense. So that's why Jesus is saying the thief, the one that invades your space, the one that takes advantage of you being unaware, comes to steal, kill, and destroy, comes to steal away your joy, to kill relationships, and to destroy the good stuff that God is doing in your life. And that's where Jesus turns it around. He said, but I've come to give you that abundant life, or that life to the full. Okay, and so that's the good life that we're talking about. Okay, so what this means is that God gives us this life to live, and it's not just stuff, it's not just the stuff on our schedules, but God surrounds us with this community that's supposed to help shape us into what he wants us to be, right? Okay, so now, oftentimes what happens in the holiday season especially, there's a whole lot of stuff that is draining. I mean, and I guess the sad thing is by the time we get to Christmas, you think, thank God this is over. You know? Anybody know what I'm talking about? Because things are just sucking you dry. There's money stuff, and there's people stuff, and you got to smile at people you don't even want around, and just all this kind of crazy stuff, and it's just sucking you dry. And I think sometimes our emptiness happens when we're outrunning God's favor. Okay? When we're outrunning God's covering. And so here's what I want you to get. This is what probably the most important part of the day. The most important thing I think today for the good life is the people that God has around you. God has people around you. And it's not even just the people you like. Did you know that God puts people around you don't like? Thank you, God. But really, because God is molding and shaping your personality and helping your character and doing these things. So God puts you in a situation because God cares about you a lot, and he really wants that thing to work out. So that plan for the good life is lived out in concert with a whole bunch of different kinds of people. And so that's why today what I'm going to talk about for just a few minutes, we're going to talk about borrowed oil. Borrowed oil. Now, oil in the Bible it's kind of interesting because the oil really actually was considered currency. So they would use oil actually to buy and sell, and so it was considered a pretty important thing. And the higher the quality, the greater the value. The lower the quality, of course, the lower the value. And so the oil that I'm referring to, this is the rich relationships that God has for you. And this is also God's spirit and power working through you. And so here's what I want you to get. So God's currency is your relational currency and your relationship with God currency. That's what makes your life high value. Now here's what's interesting. That is in such a contrast to the world that we live in. Because we put high value on stuff that goes away. Isn't that true? So that's why I want to kind of pull this back in and talk about that borrowed oil. And what this means is that God has people in our life that God uses that we borrow character from, and it makes us better than what we really are. Okay? All right, so with that in mind, in 2 Kings chapter 4, let me just read you this story. 2 Kings chapter 4, in verse 1, here's the way it starts. A certain woman of the wives of the sons of the prophets cried out to Elijah. So this is a person that she's part of the church. She's part of the group of believers, okay? She's part of that connection. And here's what she says. Your servant, my husband, is dead, and you know that your servant feared the Lord. And so she's a widow. Now, again, in this culture, there was no system for taking care of the widows. There was no assistance and no food stamps, no welfare, and no Social Security, nothing there. So she's left with a very desperate situation. And here's what she says. She says, and the creditor, everybody say creditor. Isn't that just a scary word? And watch this. The creditor is coming to take my 2 sons to be his slaves. So to collect the debt, they would take your kids. Don't get any ideas. Some of you are thinking, We could do that? No. But see, get the deal. Now here's, I think where I want to kind of make this relevant. When we're talking about the creditor, it's not talking about just simply the money that you owe or your car payment. See, the creditor for you and I is sometimes we build up a debt because we responded in a different way. Sometimes we've lost trust. Sometimes that we've done things where people haven't forgiven us. Sometimes we've overreacted. Sometimes we've been kind of a jerk. Sometimes we haven't been a great example. Sometimes we've wasted relationships. See, these are the debts that we build up. And here's what you already know. We build up these debts in our life that we are terrified that our children will have to pay. Am I talking to the right people now? All of us, we look at our lives and say, man, I sure hope my kids do better than me. Isn't that true? Isn't that true? See, that's the debt that I'm talking about. And so here, she's in this desperate situation, and she does what everybody does. She calls out to God. God, I have this desperate situation. I'm in this horrible crisis. I'm calling out to you because the debt is coming due. Things are starting to happen. I really need some help. So here's what he says, okay? So Elijah said to her, what shall I do for you? Tell me, what do you have in the house? And she said, your maidservant has nothing in the house but a jar of oil. Then he said, go borrow vessels from everywhere, from all of your neighbors. Empty vessels, do not gather just a few. And when you have come, you can shut the door behind you and your sons, pour it into those vessels, set it aside the full ones. So she went from him, shut the door behind her and her sons, who brought the vessels to her, and she poured it out. Now it came to pass when the vessels were full that she said to her son, bring me another vessel. And he said to her, there is not another vessel. So the oil ceased. Then she came and told the man of God, and he said, go sell the oil, pay your debt, and you and your sons live on the rest. Okay, so let's kind of unpack that just briefly, okay? And so here's what he told her. Okay, question number one. This is the question that blows my mind. The solution to her problem of being in lack and having nothing and being in crisis, God asked her, or through the prophet asked her, what's in your house? So here's what I want to share with you today. What God is going to use to get your life back on top is what's already in your house. Now the deal is not, I can just picture this lady, and I just got this great imagination. She's saying, so man, the creditor is coming to take my two sons, and I don't know what I'm going to do. And so what you got in the house? Dude, I just told you. I got nothing. See, sometimes I think we get in a situation where we don't recognize how favored we really are. We don't recognize it. We don't see it. And that's why I think sometimes we just need a season like Thanksgiving or a season like Christmas where we just look and say, you know what? There's stuff in your house that you're just not seeing. There's stuff God can do already with what you have. There's things that are going on. In fact, God is already at work in your lives, and maybe you just don't even recognize it. So he said, what's in your house? She said, I don't have anything. Just this jar of oil. All she saw was poverty when God saw potential. See, what I want to accomplish today for us is I want us to be able to look at our lives through different eyes. Because sometimes we just have this way that we're so caught up in the chaos of it all. We don't take the time to really kind of look around and find out how good life really is. It's a good life. It's a good life. Really. And so he said, so what do you got in the house? Then the next question, I think, is really kind of the key. He said, I want you to go to your neighbors. I want you to borrow empty jars. See, here's the good thing. What God is going to do to get your life back in order, God understands that you are surrounded with people that feel empty, that feel dry. Anybody feel like you can't give anymore? It's just like, man, things are just really tough. It's like, man, this is my last nerve. There's all these things going on. It's like, I can't add one more thing to my schedule. My kids ask me one more thing. I swear to God, I'm going to jail, you know. I mean, we get it, right? It's like, crazy. And so all of us, he said, what you don't realize that you are in the group of people. There's people around you that their jars are just as empty as yours. They're going through this. And so what God wants to do, God wants to pour out his favor, not just in your house. God wants to pour out his favor on all of us. So that corporately we could be blessed. That's God's plan, not just you. And see, I guess what I'm trying to say is, the way that God blesses you, not just at your house, for you to be able to kind of look around and see that God is doing this really cool thing in the whole world. It's not just you. We're just hyper-focused on all the wrong stuff. Okay, so he asked her, so what is in your house? And he said, I want you to go borrow those vessels from everybody else. God uses what we have to make us what he wants us to be. And so now this story kind of comes to a close, and here's where we're going to kind of wrap this up. Is there enough in your life to pay the debt? Or do you find yourself running empty? The way that you pay the debt for bad behavior, for poor decisions, for overreaction, for things that didn't go well, for broken relationships. The way that you pay the debt is you insert yourself in a community of people that help you become exactly what God wants you to become. You still with me? Matter of fact, I don't know about you, but there's like two kind of people. Some people, they when their tank gets halfway down, they go fill it up. And then there's other people that they like the gas gauge being on W. You know what W is? Walk. You know, you ever rode with those kind of people? Oh man, I got 10 miles left. Stop, dude, stop. You know the kind of people I'm talking about? You know what's bad when they get in the car and go, like that helps. You know? And see, so what I'm saying is, I think sometimes relationally, spiritually, I think we just run it right to the ragged edge. And then we wonder, it's like, why isn't this working? Because here's what Jesus said in Luke chapter 6, verse 45. What you have to do along the way is you gotta stop and store up good. You got to put some good inside. Matter of fact, you got to put in so much good inside. And what he told this lady, so that when the debt is paid, you're going to live on the rest. And I think sometimes God's people, you're just living so much below God's potential. So how do you store up good? You store up those times when you're among people that just make you laugh. You know what I mean? You store up those times when you just watch your kids play and it just brings joy to your heart. It's like, man, that's awesome. You store up those times when people come around that you just totally love. You store up those times when somebody drives by and you honk and wave because you're friends. You store up those times when you're watching those people that you love and they're just laying there sleeping and life just feels good. Friends, it's a good life. It's a good life. There's a lot of draining stuff out there, tons of stuff that runs the jars empty. But when we come together, what God does is he fills them all. I don't know about you, but one of the things I totally love, I love laughing so hard I lose my breath. Anybody else love that? So my family will come around this week and we'll tell these just, you think it's bad when I tell stories, you get the whole bunch of us together. Well, you guys aren't invited, I'll just put it that way. But we laugh hard. And we love deep. And there's a lot of memories that aren't good. But there's a few that are really good. So guess which ones I focus on? My friends, it's a good life. Store up good. So I'm going to finish with this. There's this last Jesus story in Mark chapter 8. Where this huge group of people are following Jesus. And they've been following Jesus for 3 days, listening to him speak, and just an incredible experience. And after 3 days, Jesus said, he looks at them and he says, you know what? They're tired and they're empty. If you are beginning this holiday season, you feel tired and empty, God notices where you're at. God knows what's going on. He knows what's in your heart. And here's what he said. He said, I'm not going to let them take that long journey back without filling them up. So he asked his guys, well, what do we have? Well, we got a little bit of bread, a little bit of fish. And so what God does, God takes what seems like it's not nearly enough and makes it more than enough. That's how God works. And so I don't want you to leave here today feeling empty, feeling tired and worn down. So had an interesting moment this morning. I get up really, really early. I get up like about 4. Anybody else get up really early? You know the dirty, rotten shame about getting older? Nothing you could do about it. What's with that, you know? So I get up really, really early. And it's dark. You don't want to turn on a whole lot of lights because that will wake people up that you're not ready for yet, you know. Don't blame me. I mean, I'm just talking to you, you know. And so I'm like a lot of you that my cognitive skills are not really good that early in the morning. So I kind of do the pinball thing to the kitchen. Anybody know what the pinball thing is? Off of both sides of the hall, just kind of find my way to the coffee pot. In fact, I don't know if you know this, but you know what they call mornings before coffee? Night. Somebody asked the lady one time, said, well, do you drink coffee to live? She goes, no, I drink coffee so you'll live. But anyway, so I'm stumbling through the kitchen, and I'm trying to maneuver my way through baby toys. Baby toys. And my foot finds one along the way, and, you know, I'm like, and so at first I'm a little frustrated. But then I stopped for a moment and I just looked. And at that very moment, I was stored up good because I'm having to trip over baby toys. And what that means is I'm a grandpa. That means that God is faithful concerning his promises. That means that we prayed for 10 years and God answered the prayer. You see what I'm saying? So what I'm saying, guys, sometimes the things that we think are irritations, that's God's way of saying, hey, dude, come on, wake up. It's a good life. There's good stuff around you. There's people that you love and all the little irritations and stuff. What if those people were not anywhere? So God has surrounded you with all of these empty jars that are just doing this and saying, God said, you know what? If you'll gather all of those together, I'm going to pour out my favor on all of that. And you're going to have this incredible time called the holiday season. You're going to have Thanksgiving where you can laugh and play and eat way too much food and watch football and take really long naps and talk about how hard everything is. It's a good life. It's a good life. And maybe you're in a situation where you're looking at life and you're going through some hard places. Maybe there's some relational tensions. It's like, man, it's just really, really hard right now. It doesn't feel like the holidays. Maybe financially there's just a stress and you say, man, I don't know what I'm going to do. Maybe you're trying to recover from a mistake. You think, well, Pastor Dave, this doesn't apply to me. Yeah, it does. The creditor's coming. Grab the oil. Let God pour out his favor in your life and take your worst and cover it with his best. It's called grace. And I think that's why you're here today. Could I get you to bow your heads and close your eyes for just a moment, please? You know, today, let me just pause for just a moment. I just want to be sensitive to God's Spirit because I feel like there's some people today, you're angry. There's stuff going on in life, and the only emotion that you can recognize right now is you're really angry. You're just mad. And it's very frustrating because you feel like that there's nothing you can do about it. If that describes you, just slip your hand up real quick, put it right back down. Say, Pastor Dave, that's me, man. Pray for me. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else? You're just angry. So I'm just ticked off. It's not my fault. I don't understand what is going on. It just feels so unfair. If that's you, raise your hand. Come on, real quick. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Second question. You're just trying to find your way back. Man, I wandered a long way away. Things are not good. If that describes you, just raise your hand up real quick. Say, yeah, Pastor Dave, that's me. Thank you. Last question. You feel overwhelmed. It's just overwhelming. It's just, man, I don't know. I don't even know what the first step is. It just feels like there's just too much. If that describes you today, one last time, just raise your hand up. Just say, Pastor Dave, I'm in a spot, man. Thanks. Thank you. Thank you. Could y'all please stand this morning? Just turn to somebody and tell them it's a good life. Really, it's a good life. You ready for some good news? Here's some good news. From now till Christmas, you're going to jack this up. Yeah. You're going to overreact. You're going to say something dumb. Right? It's true, right? You're going to get kind of stressed out, and you're going to pop off something, and you're going to say something to the right person the wrong way. And you'll have one of those nights when it's not only cold outside, it's cold in your house too. Right? It's still a good life. It's still a good life. Take a step back. Look at the life that God has given you. See, that's gratitude.